Hi there, you're listening to Commissioning Conversations, the podcast brought to you by Broadcast Intelligence.
Hi, I'm Alice Redman, a senior media researcher at the Commissioner Index, and today I'm joined by UKTV's head of scripted, Pete Thornton. Pete oversees all of UKTV's scripted output, covering Gold, Dave, W and Alibi. So, hi Pete, how are you doing?
Hi Alice, yeah, I'm good, thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, very well. So, just to jump straight in, how are you and the drama team finding working right now?
Well, I think we're quite fortunate in a way compared to some, because in scripted, of course, a lot of the work is reading, unsurprisingly. So, I'm using this, trying to see this as an opportunity, frankly, to get involved in my inbox and clear out all the scripts that I haven't managed to get to in the last couple of months and before, if I'm honest. And I think so as a team, both in the comedy team and the drama team, we're just really doubling down on reading time. We're relatively fortunate in that we can develop effectively while sat at our desks. So it's an opportunity really to really crack on.
And are you still receiving new pitches at the moment? Still open to new ideas?
Yes, absolutely. I've actually been, all the people I've been speaking to over the last kind of 5 weeks, we've been, briefing out as usual. Absolutely nothing changes. We still have slots to fill further down the line when we come out the back of all this. And this is a really, really good time for me, not only to be developing new projects and thinking creatively about what we can do, when the opportunity arises, but also we have the added bonus of shows that we've had to put on pause. Those scripts can still continue being improved and refined and hopefully made more dramatic and more comedic. And so that's, shows that I'm not saying we ever go into production when things aren't completely ready. But, sometimes you feel you could have done with another couple of weeks of scribbling away before you actually make the show. And so there's a good opportunity here to really dive into those shows that we already were in pre-production for, and just enjoy spending a bit more time shaping those scripts.
And what are you looking for in both comedy and drama across the channels at the moment?
Nothing's particularly changed. The briefs are for Dave and Gold for the comedy side of things. We're looking for more 3x 30-minute mini-series, which is how we've always kind of launched our shows. We tend to launch with a small run of 3, and then if the show works, we'll bring it back to 6. So that's really always the bedrock of our comedy commissioning, and we do work in different areas and different formats, but that's not going to go away. We're still going to want those half-hour series, and we're still going to be looking for volume. We're still going to be looking for returners. So for Gold and Dave, I'm looking for those kind of shows. But we're also exploring more, as I think I've said before, we're exploring more the option of doing 90-minute one-offs. It's something we've done successfully on Gold recently with Johnny and Sean's Charlie Button's Murder on the Blackwell Express franchise. So that's worked really well for us as a sort of annual 90-minute treat. And we've been thinking about what that sort of show might look like on Dave. So what's the Dave equivalent of those sorts of things? And that's generally a sort of a funny spin-off or a fresh take on quite a well-known genre. So obviously with the Agatha Christie shows, with the Johnny and Sean shows, it's a comedy whodunit. So we're looking at, what are the other areas we can explore on Dave, and it might be, comedy heist, or it might be a comedy horror, those sorts of things where we can introduce the show in an area that the audiences are familiar with, but then we do something original and different and fun with it, and that obviously hopefully gives us the spin that we're looking for. So we're looking for that, and obviously we've had success recently with Red Dwarf on Dave in that way of taking a show that's obviously much loved and has been going for a long time, but looking at the format for that and saying, well, rather than just another 6-part series, what else can we do that's going to make that show feel fresh and different and make it an event? And so we spoke to that team, a while back, obviously, and talked to them about the possibility of doing a Red Dwarf kind of TV feature. And they really embraced that, and they loved that idea, giving, to bring it back after a few years and give it a different angle. And of course, playing at that length, we were able to access some high-end tax credit money, so they had a bit more budget to play with. And obviously, you need that if you're going to do a version of a sitcom that's more ambitious in terms of story, that's more ambitious in terms of the visuals. So that gave that show a sort of a fresh impetus in a way. And after 2 weeks into the consolidation, it's up over 2 million viewers. So that's a huge hit, and I'm really happy that show's done so well for us. So yes, for Dave and Gold, those are the options, and we might start with a 90-minute and then spin that off into half-hour shows after that. We're certainly looking at that as a shape and using the sort of 90 minutes as a sort of super pilot, if you like, a really good opportunity to establish a show and then turn it into a series. Or, there's other formats going back the other way, where you might start doing, like with Red Dwarf, you start with half hours and then try to do a big event. So that's kind of ongoing. And with drama, we're obviously in an earlier stage of our adventure with drama. We've had Traces, which went out in Alibi at the end of last year, and which is Philippa Colley-Cousins, my commissioner for drama. It was her first kind of swing of the bat. She's absolutely smashed it out of the park with that. So for that show to rate over 1 million on Alibi in pay for a new, our first commission onto that channel was really exciting, and so we're massively buoyed up, and that's given us a lot more confidence, and we're very excited about the next show that we have coming down the line for Alibi, which is We Hunt Together, coming out in May, so not long to wait now, end of May. So we're going to continue commissioning and continue our search for those kind of slightly, what we would call reputational shows that we can get really get behind, that are serialized and probably slightly darker than some other shows that we might be looking at. So rewarding, complex, very high production value. Those shows, if Traces has given us, we tried that and that clearly worked. So we're going to want to do more of that. We Hunt Together is a slightly darker tone even than Traces, and it'll be really interesting to see how that Alibi audience react to that. I'm dead excited about it, and it's just brilliantly shot, I think, and brilliantly performed and produced. But it's a different flavour again. It's really lovely for us. We don't do so many commissions that we want to just do the same thing all the time. Every time we do something new, we want to try to push into a slightly new area. We want to try to always be pushing at the boundaries of what we think we can get away with and trying things, and that's sometimes not all going to work. But it's exciting for us to offer up things that our audience, not that aren't going to kind of really freak them out and that they clearly don't want, but things that, when I was at the BBC, remember the phrase that was kicking around there a lot was, how do we surprise and delight our audiences? That was the mantra. And I always thought it was a really smart phrase, to surprise and delight the people that are coming to your channel. And you're going to do that by offering them things that are, within the wheelhouse of what they expect, but aren't exactly what they expect. And so that's a really nice way to be working, and one of the great things about being here, really.
And how do you separate a comedy pitch from a drama pitch? What would you say makes something a pure comedy rather than a drama with some funny bits, or vice versa?
I guess with a pitch, it's hard because there aren't many pitches that are hilarious. That's sort of a famously tricky thing to do. And you don't necessarily want them to be hilarious. You just want to hear what the show is about. But the short answer to that is, a comedy show will have less narrative. The emphasis isn't on story as much as it is on a drama. So in a sitcom, your situation is constant and your characters evolve maybe slightly over series to series, but generally you take your audience on a journey from point A to point B, and at the end of the series, everyone's reset back to where they were. And there's that famous kind of Seinfeld mantra of no hugging, no learning. No one ever learns anything, and no one ever gets better at anything. They're still as useless as they were before. So in comedy, you're really focused on character and jokes, so there isn't time for narrative. And actually, most sitcoms, the plot is, Gemma thinks she's pregnant, hilarity ensues. That's a comedy plot line. That'll last you half an hour. Whereas in drama, of course, it's much more focused on the narrative. So people are looking for a proper story, and again, obviously character is really important, pacing is really important, tone is really important, but obviously it's much more about the narrative in a drama pitch.
In terms of when people are submitting ideas or scripts to you, obviously there's some very distinctive tones for each channel. What would you recommend to someone who is unsure about which channel this should be pitched for? Should they write on pitch with a specific channel in mind, or are you open to a more general idea that you can help almost fit to a channel?
That's a good question. I'm really happy to take ideas without them necessarily being channel specific, because things change rapidly all the time, and a brief can go slightly out of date if we're asking for a show that's in a particular area, and then we happen to commission one, and then we get another idea in a week later. Then that person's not going to know that we recently scratched that itch, as it were. I mean, Gold will always be, tonally will always be a mainstream, multi-generational channel which needs to appeal to a very broad audience. That's never going to change. So we can't do stuff that's too hard hitting there. We wouldn't do shows with particularly strong language there, but we can do shows that where people talk normally and there's a bit of language. It's not completely sanitized, and that's something that I think maybe some people wouldn't know, that Gold's become a little bit more, a little bit harder edge, and a little bit less pure mainstream perhaps in the last couple of years. Dave is a completely different tone in a way there. We can be much more risky. We can embrace that sort of content, which we definitely wouldn't try on Gold, much more and enthusiastically. W is another channel where, with Flack, that's a show that definitely doesn't pull its punches, got some pretty hard-hitting storylines, some pretty strong language, and that tone, works very well on that channel. It's not necessarily what you would expect to see, but it's certainly landed and done a great job for the audience there. So, Alibi is an older skewing channel than W, still very female focused, still 60-40 female focused. And again, that audience probably aren't going to be at home to too much, language or too content that's too strong. But again, We Hunt Together perhaps pushes the envelope on that. It'll be really interesting to see how that goes. It's perhaps a little bit more ambitious in those areas than other people might be expecting. A lot of the content that we buy into Alibi is that sort of softer crime, Father Brand, Death in Paradise. The audience love that, but they also, people just love to be told good stories, and I think we can serve that audience very well by trying not to replicate things they've already got.
And obviously you're still taking pictures, still doing lots of reading, but production at the moment is on hold for nearly everyone. Do you have anything upcoming that you might be planning to adapt to be coronavirus friendly, to use a term that I've just made up?
Yes, the answer to that is we're not in scripted. We have discussed it, obviously, and we've considered it, and we've knocked a few ideas around. The problem for me, particularly with that, is really just turnaround time. For us to write something, record it, cut it, get it to a stage where it's ready to go out. The worry for us is that we'd be behind the curve. This is a very fast-moving situation, and also I think to a certain extent, in terms of scripted comedy or drama, I think people are getting an awful lot of corona information through the news, and we're not lacking in focus on the virus at the moment. So in some ways, I think people are looking in terms of their entertainment to the opposite of that, to be taken away from that and to escape from that to a certain extent. There's quite a lot of talk around in the industry at the moment about escapist fare and about the shows that have been in the schedule that are more naturally heavily on the escapist front, and how well those shows have been doing. And I think that's not to say people want incredibly light comedy all the time, although it's working very well for us. People just want to be taken out of themselves and to be distracted for a bit, I think. And I think that's tricky to do. Even if we could practically do a lot of shows and mount them effectively in lockdown, I think tonally it might be tricky for us.
Do you think that as a response to kind of what's happening and what will happen in the future, your general strategy may alter slightly with what you're after, maybe once lockdown ends? Beyond that?
That's another really good question. It's possible, isn't it? I don't know yet. I think it's too early to call that. We're going to need a little bit more distance to see how the world feels once we're out the back of this. We're still very much in the thick of it. I think there is logic dictates that there's a good chance that people might want to have lighter shows, that maybe we'll see a boom in, more full-on comedy. So, the fashion in recent years has been for more narrative comedy, which is terrific and has all sorts of advantages for us as a broadcaster, in terms of it actually allows us to perhaps look at working with other broadcasters, because, the narrative's higher in the mix and the jokes are less prevalent. So that whole problem of us being able to work with Americans, for example, who don't share our sense of humour, is perhaps not quite as serious. So I'm really excited about narrative comedy in that sense and those avenues that it opens up. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if people are saying, do you know what, we'd like to just have some slightly more heightened shows. It's not something that we are looking to do. We're not adjusting our commissioning brief right now to do that, but it's certainly something that we're very alive to. And I like to think we're pretty on the button. We've got a very, very good research and insight team, UKTV. We've got a pretty good bunch of people who are monitoring these sorts of things, and we talk about it all the time. We keep in touch with our audiences all the time. We try to really be on the front foot in terms of where their tastes are going, whilst at the same time, as I say, trying to do things that slightly surprise them rather than just give them exactly what they say they want.
What is the best way to pitch to you and the UKTV scripted team?
Well, you can always pitch to me direct. I have a team of people that help me. Obviously, Philippa Colley-Cousins is in charge of the drama commissioning, and she has a script reader who works directly into her. So she tends to share her script reading duties with him. I have a script reader who works with me in comedy, and obviously then we have other people who man the submissions, UKTV submissions portal, which is where a lot of stuff comes in from. I really encourage people to approach us either via an indie or via an agent. commission. It's quite hard for us to deal with lots of scripts that come in, from individuals. It's just, there's an awful lot of stuff to read, and I really, really want to try to offer a decent service, and I can't do that if I'm getting 25 scripts a day, because there is only one of me. But yeah, you can always approach me direct, or you can approach us through the submissions portal at UKTV. All the details are on our website.
And what do you prefer? Do you prefer a fully fleshed out script, or maybe just some top line ideas?
I'm really happy to work from anything from a one line on the back of a fag packet saying, we're having to think about, I've had a funny idea about a dog. What do you think? From that sort of level of detail through to full scripts and everything in between. So we quite often, if something comes in and it's very, very early days, we're very happy to commission treatments. Obviously, we commission scripts all the time. We are not so proud that we don't take scripts that have obviously, been in development, but there's plenty of projects out there with other broadcasters that don't quite make the grade, but are still excellent projects. So, I don't want to invite too many of other people's cast-offs, but we've had a lot of projects come our way that have nearly made the grade because they're very, very good, and they just haven't quite made it over the finishing line with other people, but they're perfect for us. So, so the short answer is anything from one sentence to full sets of scripts or tasters or sizzles or whatever. We don't have any particular straitjackets in terms of the way we receive things.
And just to finish us off, drama has been a big TV landmark over the weeks with Quiz and Normal People coming out and things like that. What are you watching during lockdown? What are you box setting and binging and looking forward to?
Oh, there's so much. There is a lot on, isn't there, at the moment? I've got a fair bit stacked up. I have to say, I'm actually stuck into a long-term project with my daughter's bought a full DVD box set of The West Wing, which I've never seen. So we're kind of stuck into that, funnily enough, which is not the freshest bit of content out there, but it's great, and that's something that there's always a bit of a battle over the over the TV set. The other thing I'm really enjoying, I have to say, is Flack, which is on a channel called W. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's on Mondays at 10 p.m. So that's on at the moment. So I'm really enjoying seeing that go out as well.
That was a great plug to end with. So thank you very much for being on our podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Commissioning Conversations. This podcast is produced, hosted and edited by Alice Redman and Hannah Bowler. We'll be back next week with more, so don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Podbean or YouTube. In the meantime, the latest Commissioner briefs can be found on broadcastintel.com.